that. And yield, this is what they've promised the farmers, that the reason they need to buy this more expensive seed and buy all of the herbicides is because they're going to be able to grow more and therefore make more for their family. What they have found, though, is that's a false promise, that it hasn't increased yields. And it hasn't fed a starving world. You know, this is what the bill of sales that they had sold to these farmers to change all this and charge them more. But what it has done is increase the farmers' medical bills dramatically.
And destroyed their soil.
Destroyed their soil. So again, now we're looking at those points. You know, do we smell a rat? Are there any red flags? Are there any people or money conflicts involved in this industry? Is there any government protections? Is there biased scientific purview? Is there safety testing? Is there any proof of harm? Any proof of cover up? Any media malpractice? Any secondary effects?
All of the above.
All of the above, yep. So the people money conflicts, the most, you know, this is a documented issue here where you got the agency official that's in charge of promoting the biotechnology of GMO was Michael Taylor, who was Monsanto's former attorney, later their vice president, and he's now the food safety czar under Obama. Of course, this is a little bit old, but it just shows how they can go through and be promoted through the industry and then become the official in the government.
Obama let those guys in too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of them let them in, right?
Yep. It's been going on, you know, since Nixon's time. You know, most of the health and environmental risks of GMOs are ignored by government's superficial regulations and safety assessments. And here I'm saying, you know, watch for an herbicide court or a GMO court. Once people start realizing, you know, just like the vaccines, that they can sue because of damages, the government will step in and say, well, we need vaccines, we need GMOs. So instead of you suing them and them going out of business, we'll put it in a special court and we'll pay the damages. As in, you and me will pay the damages.
Who's paying for those damages in California from Monsanto? Suing them for billions of dollars. Is that coming out of our pockets, not Monsanto's?
No, that's coming out of Monsanto's for the time being. But you know, they were just bought by Bayer.
Yeah, right.
So either they're going to declare bankruptcy and then go under a different name, because I don't think Bayer is paying for these, because I don't think the merger's complete.
Yeah.
But you know, they'll probably declare bankruptcy so they don't have to pay everything, and then just, you know, transfer their assets to Bayer.
So then somebody will be suing Bayer then someday, unless they change that law.
Well, here's an interesting tidbit. Bayer's located in Germany, right? The German government has outlawed Roundup in the country. So if that's not telling, you know, people need to wake up and smell the coffee. So here is an example in the biased scientific purview. The journal Nature, well-known a journal out there, acknowledged that a large block of scientists denigrate research by their legitimate scientists in a knee-jerk, partisan, emotional way that is not helpful in advancing science. So that's one example. But remember how we had the example of Wakefield in the vaccinations? A very similar situation happened with another British scientist. This was Arpak Putzi, and a French scientist. And what they were doing, they had the gall to actually test genetically modified food in rats. And they published the results. And unfortunately for them, they found that rats and mice that eat genetically modified food get tumors, get cancer. Well, that was bad for business. So these guys lost their jobs, had their reputations, you know, denigrated, and their research retracted.
I've seen pictures of those rats. It doesn't look good.
Exactly. And again, you know, we're the guinea pigs when it comes to these foods have not been tested in the United States, and when they are tested somewhere else, you know, there's a problem.
I have a theory about all that stuff too. Not just tumors in rats, but you look at people these days, they're getting bigger. I don't know, you seen the Mexicans?
Well,
30 years ago, they weren't this big.
Yeah, the obesity is striking. It's obvious, and it's that whole load effect. The body gains weight to put some place to put toxins. So what you're looking at is just very, very toxic people for all sorts of reasons. I would say for all of these reasons.
Really? So your body gets bigger to deal with all the toxins.
Mm-hmm. So wow. That's telling too that people that are slender, they're getting a direct hit from toxicities. So they have to always be detoxing because they're not putting it in their fat. Their body's, needs to have it removed to the liver. So you have to have extra protection for all of your detoxification pathways because you're under the same assault. We're all kind of in the same environment. It's how is your body dealing with it? Proof of harm. Well, we saw the pictures, like you said. We can see that there's harm. If you're familiar with Jeffrey Smith, he started the Responsible Technology Institute. He's been studying GMOs and the effects of Roundup for 23 years. He has just produced a movie called The Secret Ingredient, and he did an experiment basically and followed all of these families that had serious health effects, and the only change they made was remove GMOs from their diet and documented how their health improved just doing that. So we know that it is causing harm. This is documented here when we had talked about GM food can leave material behind. Remember the bacteria, they share DNA among themselves. So now you've got the food broken down in the stomach and all this free-floating DNA, and our bacteria in our gut picks it up. And so what they're showing here, that that BT toxin, that toxic insecticide that was in the BT corn, is showing up in the blood of pregnant women and their unborn fetuses. So, we're now creating a whole genetic issue that's never been seen on the planet before. And Jeffrey Smith also announced at a recent conference that we were at that as of October 9th of this year, all the governments globally have released the regulations that used to hold the genomes. There was a sanctity of you weren't able to hack genomes. There were certain things you weren't not allowed to do. That's all been released. There's no regulations now. All genomes are completely hackable. So we're going to see countries do things that, cross-hybridize species that you would have never believed possible. We know that countries have been experimenting with human DNA and genome. So now there's no regulation. So, we might be seeing the return of the centaur.
I was just thinking the same thing, the horse and the man. I was thinking the same thought.
Yep. And now the other red flag, is there any proof of cover-up? So this, scientists who discovered problems with GMOs have been attacked, gagged, fired, threatened, denied funding.
Killed, like in Florida, all those naturopaths down there getting killed in Florida.
We know that Nicola's fiance is tracking all of those deaths, and they're suspicious deaths. We found out, of course, living in Idaho, that it was the only state that had these ag-gag laws on the books. And what it meant is that if I took a picture of them aerial spraying Roundup, or like I have the posters that they put on the trees that say "Do not enter, herbicide sprayed," I would be arrested if someone turned me in because my film was trespassing on their property. If I took a picture of someone, and someone did, and they got arrested, a farmer had a sick cow, and he thought the best way to move it was to just spike it with a hay baler that used to pick up round bales, just spike it and move the cow because he, didn't want to hurt it over there. So the animal cruelty individuals, PETA, had taken a picture of this, but that person was arrested because their film trespassed, So if there's cruelty or someone's dumping into our rivers or lakes or streams, they were controlling, those who are reporting it by having them arrested. And that was called the ag-gag laws. It has been repealed, but again, there's a precedence out there. Who says that it can't be put back? What it's saying is that the public officials in Idaho are corrupt, and that they are being, put into office because of the big business. We know that the past Idaho governor, Butch Otto, is married to J.R. Simplot's daughter. J.R. Simplot is the largest potato, Idaho potato, largest potato manufacturer on the planet. They come up with 3 new genetically modified potatoes every year. So most of your run-of-the-mill potatoes out there, probably, all of the fast food places, they're all genetically modified. Media malpractice, again, this attempts by independent media. And this is kind of in reverse. Even when an independent tries to go out there and report on a problem, they get shut down or shot or put out of business. So, it's either they're putting false information or the guy's trying to get good information is being shut down. So it happens both ways. Good news for Big Ag. Of course, you've got all of these issues when people get Crohn's and IBS and, celiac issues. Well, then there's a drug for that. There's a pill for that,
It's got it covered on the front end of it.
Yep, same thing. A different industry. The other was the CDC, FDA. This is USDA, co-ops, Big Ag issues here. But another problem with GMO foods means that you can use 3 times the amount of herbicides on it. So it's not just the fact that you've got the genetics that are jacked, but now you've got food that has much more herbicide to deal with. And the combination is really what makes it so toxic. Okay, so that's the information on the GMOs.
I'm gonna go home and get in a